Okay, so we're going to rig up this character here. And what do I want to do first? First thing I do is let's check out the scale. So actually, even before checking out the scale, you might notice something. This is the glasses are kind of fragging out a little bit there, maybe. If I go in here to select camera, no, not lock camera, select camera, and I go into the attribute editor, I'm out here, I might notice that the near clipping plane might be set to too fine. There, that fixes that. And I might add a couple of extra zeros here to the far clipping plane. Okay, so I can zoom out further. Way out there. Okay, great. And if I see the same problem in this camera, I could do that, but I think we're going to be okay. Next thing I want to do is go to create, and if I go here to measure tools and I go into distance tool, I'll hold down X, and I'll go from there to there. I'm just checking out the general height. It's 190 centimeters, so I'm good. Okay, you want to make sure everything's real world scale before you start to rig. So you have a relative point to talk about when you're trying to compare things. If you got characters that end up being different sizes and you merge them in one scene, you're screwed. So try and go for real world scale. And I'm just going to delete that again. If I see any problems here, I can move this around and I can see it adjust the centimeters that it's measuring over here. Also remember that my grid, if I go into display grid, mine is set to 200, 10, and 1. Okay. So I got something real world size-ish, and it's much more manageable when I'm looking at it here in the front view and side view, etc., etc. And I'm just going to delete that, and I'm going to save it. Okay, boop. Coming back here. Now what I need is I need to start putting in a skeleton. And I'm at the 2-minute mark. So let's try to keep this under 15 minutes for the video. If I go in and we've got the two sides here, let's go to the right view. And in the right view, let's hit 4 so you can see the wireframe on this. I do have a mesh underneath the clothing. Yeah, I'll keep it that way. Sometimes I say if you don't need to see the model, or if you're not going to see it, don't model it. But I'll try and keep this all relatively digestible. Here, I'm just going to go and hit H, and I'm just going to hide a bit of the clothes here. So we're just looking at the body. Keep the shoes, because yeah. I'm going to go in from modeling to rigging, and I'll go over here to skeleton, and I'm going to go to create joints. With the create joints, typically if I'm going in here and I'm creating them, I like to go and just put this to 1, tab 1, tab 1. So they're all the same size. I'll change them on my own. There's this thing right here, variable bone radius. You can just turn that off if you want to as well. So either way. I guess I'm used to changing all these to 1, 1, 1 because a long time ago they didn't have that. So it's just a habit of mine. Anyway, let's turn that off. And what I want to do is first we'll go in and I'll put in a hip. So the hip, I'm going to go here. If I do notice my joint is a bit small, I'm just going to go into display, transform display, and I'm going to go to local, nope, down here to animation, joint size. And I can adjust the joint size here. So I got something that, it's not too large, but just visible. This doesn't affect the joint at all, remember that. Okay, I'm going to have a knee. Could have put more geometry in there in the knee. And I'm going to put in the ankle. Ankle is kind of down a bit, I find, works better. So just down into here. And balls of the feet and the toe. Okay, and I'm going to hit enter. There we go. And let's just close that for a moment. So we've got our leg. Let's just go and switch to, actually let's name things first. Just going to go in here. I just held down shift to open up everything, and this is going to be my hip. Enter, knee, ankle, ball, and toe. Okay. So there we got those. I'm just going to go to the front view. And what I like to do here is if I can ideally, in this case here, it looks like my leg, I modeled it so it's going to line up almost perfectly straight. If I did have a leg that was going out at an angle, I'd probably take the top and I'd rotate it out so that I can always kind of keep this in a straight line here if possible. Yeah, I might adjust the model if I had to, just to make it so that I can keep this straight. It's easier for the IK handle calculation if this is in a straight line in the front view. Okay, so I did that. And again, if I needed to move it, I'd try and center the ankle here by using the rotate tool. I'm just going to undo that because it worked out really, really well to start off with. Okay, this is going to be the left side of my model. So I might just quickly identify these under modify, prefix hierarchy names. I'm going to put an L underscore, so a capital L there on all these. Okay, L hip, L knee, L ankle, L ball, and L toe, and a few other Spanish villains in there, and we got it. Okay, so then I'm going to flip back over here to the right view, and I'm going to get my joint tool out again, skeleton joint tool. Now I'm going to be looking for my center of gravity, my root joint, and my root is going to go somewhere around here. And I have a tendency to put another joint right here, okay? And this is going to be for my pelvis, because we're doing a really simple rig. I want independent pelvis control, so I'm putting in an extra joint down here, because I'm going to just be doing an FK back, okay, not the stretchy spine, so I'm doing this a little bit weird. Then I'm going to go and hit the up arrow. That travels me back up here to joint number 1, and then I can go in here. We'll put in one kind of for the belly area. Okay, so here's my belly, and then just below my rib cage, just kind of into the rib cage a little bit. The rib cage doesn't tend to move much, so I'm not going to put any more joints in here. I could put in one if I wanted to, but I think I'm going to leave that out. And I'm going to go straight up to the base of the neck, and then I'm going to go up in here in the neck itself. Some people like to go from the base of the neck right up to the head. I like one extra joint in here, particularly with a longer neck. If you got a really no neck, then you can go 1, 2, but if you could have longer neck, it just looks better, it deforms better if you do that, in my opinion. For the base of the head, I'm putting that just below the earlobe. Okay, and then I'll put in one here for the head tip. I'll hit enter. And I can't remember if I mentioned this, shading, I have x-ray joints on so I could see them through my mesh. Okay, let's name these things. So that one there is going to be my root. Okay, and that's going to be my pelvis. And here, this is going to be my back underscore 01. You know, you could call this spine as well. See, if I type in, I just copy the name, put it there, and we don't want 2 joints with the same name. That's bad. And then, so back 1 and 2, and then this one here will be neck underscore 01. Just copy that, put that in here, it'll be neck number 2. We'll just call that head. Okay, and then this one here is head underscore tip. Or actually, let's call it end. I'm trying to use end and be really consistent. Okay. I could even say that the toe here is an end joint. Okay, I like to put that in there just so that I know that when I'm skinning and weighting things, I typically don't weight anything to something that has the word end in it because it's not really doing anything. It's the one just above it in the hierarchy that's doing some work. So now that I've got this in place, I can select the hip and select the pelvis, and I'm going to press P. And P has parented into place. Okay, so now it's parented in there. We can see it's created the little bone connector. Okay, it's just a visual thing. There's a bone that's connecting the joints together. And this is my left hip, all the way down here. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go over here to skeleton, and I'm going to use the mirror joints option. And mirror joints, mirror across, YZ, search for capital L underscore, and replace with capital R underscore. When I hit apply, boom, it pops over. Also too, notice I'm using L's and R's instead of left and right just because it's shorter and it's less stuff I have to type out, and it's just easier to look at. But there you go. Now we've got all those with the right side, and it's positioned exactly on the other side. Also note that I did select just the hip joint. I didn't select the pelvis joint when I did that. If you do that, if you select the pelvis joint and then you do this, you're going to end up with two pelvis joints, and you don't want that, okay? That's just a common thing I see people tripping up on. Now, what do we have? We're at 10-minute mark. Let's see if we can get the arm done. This is going to be a slower one, especially with the fingers here. I was trying to keep this video short. Let's flip to the front view, and I'm going to get the joint tool out. And there's a clavicle bone that goes across here that typically I see people put a joint up here for. But in reality, or they'll put it up in the trapezius where there's just a muscle and there's no bone at all. What I've found works is somewhere between the clavicle and the bottom of the pectoral muscle is a good spot to put a joint. Kind of actually it lines up more with the back and the scapula, pivot of the scapula. But I put a joint in there. Let's see what that looks like over here on the side. And it's a little bit too far forward, so I'm going to move it back. I'm going to go back to the front view, and I'm going to get the joint tool out again. I hope that worked. No, it didn't. So if I go in here and I click on this thing, I hate these people at Autodesk. This used to work where you could just go in here and click on this. I'm just going to, actually I'm going to pause for a second and see if I can figure out a trick. No, I can't figure it out. I'm just going to go with it. Okay, so I'm used to be you could, if you had this tool on, if you clicked on a joint, it would automatically select that as your first joint, and then you can start drawing out from there, but it doesn't let me do that. I can't figure it out. So I'm going to go up here for the shoulder. And for the shoulder, we want it to be kind of, there's where my armpit is. We don't want it too far into the arm because that's going to look weird. We don't want it too far back this way. And I can see here it's, well, it's going to be okay here. We'll move that afterwards. So I got the first one in, and then I'm going to put in a elbow and a wrist. Okay, and I put those in a straight line. I held down shift while I did that. That's going to make my life a little bit better. But I'm just going to go here to the top view, and just going to quickly move these into place. So if I move this over here, I take this one and move it there. Actually, it looks like I might have missed here. I'm just going to move this one over here-ish, right where the elbow pit should be. Okay, I'm just looking around. Everything should be good. And let's take that one and move it here. I find if it comes a little bit into the hand here, it looks a bit better. If it's too far into the wrist, it looks really weird, or up into the forearm, it looks really weird when it deforms. So I kind of look at this shape here and I place it just a little bit in. Like I said, I think it looks better. I can take this and I'll press P. P parents those together. Okay. This character is going to have an exposed forearm. Actually, I can see that my joints aren't quite lined up in here. It's going to have an exposed forearm. I would like to have a ulna joint in here. There's two bones in here that rotate over each other and they twist inside of your forearm. And what I want is to fix that. I'm going to go into skeleton and I'm going to use insert joint. I'm going to click on this joint and drop one in like this. Dook. I'll hit. There, it's done. It's not aiming at it correctly, so I'm just going to go here and I'm going to hit orient joints. There, now they're pointing at each other. If you have the scale tool on, you'll see it aims directly at this joint over here. Okay, I can take this. Actually, let's just see what I've got here for this one. If I go into skeleton, I hit orient joint. Dook, 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 boink. Okay. Now, actually we're at the 15-minute mark. Do I want to pause? I'll just do the whole thing in one go. Now, I would like to get finger joints in. So for the finger joints, I'm going to get the Create Joints tool. And when I'm placing them, I'm going to go over here and there's a little button. This is Snap to Projected Center, because otherwise I have to kind of move these joints around. I've been showing you so far, I've been creating them in the different viewports, and then I'm moving them around. So what I'm going to do here, when I click, because I'm using projected centers, it goes directly into the center of the geometry in the area where I'm clicking. These joints are looking a bit big. I'm just going to go to Display and Animation, Joint Size, and I'll make these a bit smaller now. Okay, tip of the finger, Enter. Just hit, get the joint tool out again. Do the same thing. I'm kind of putting this one so it's kind of a little bit back into the hand. Okay. And you're seeing it snap right into the center over here. Oh, and I was trying to hit G, but last thing I did was change the joint size. So I'm going to go back over here to Create Joints. Place this back a bit. I'm looking for where the pivots are. I can kind of see it in the geometry here. That's where I want the joints to be. Okay. There we go. And then for the thumb. Now the thumb it bends here and here, but there's also something at the base. So I'm going to put one close to around here. And right around there. And I'm looking here as it's going into place. It looks like I got that one and that one. There we go. And anything else I want? I have this tendency to put in one right here as well. Okay, this is just kind of a weird joint to put in. I call this the palm joint because I can kind of bend the palm a little bit. I don't know anyone else who does that. I just drag selected over these, and that's going to select the top of these hierarchies. Take this one, I'm going to press P, that parents together, this and this and then this. I'll press P, those are parented together. And let's see, this is going to take a little while. So let's see if I open this up, see how fast I can do this. I'm naming these things. Okay, so this one here is going to be my clavicle. This one here is shoulder. Elbow. You might find some people like to name these, this is my ulna, name them after the areas that they deform. I like to name them after the pivot point. Wrist, palm. And when I get to these ones here, I'm looking for something fast because I'm lazy. Actually, I'm just looking, the hierarchies are kind of funny. Maybe if this one here were the first one, I'm just going to middle click and move that one up here. Okay, boop. But if I select these right here, there's an option that's kind of hidden right there, the little thing there. And I can switch that to rename, and I'm going to call this one index. And did it do it? Index 0, 1, 2, 3. Oh, God damn it. Doesn't always do it exactly the way you want it to, but faster than typing out each one individually. And I could call that last one end as well. And I can do the same thing here. Actually, that's the ring finger. There's the mid finger. And so if I go in here and I do mid 1, 2, 3, 4, underscore 0. Oh, that's not a 0. That's no moon. Actually, if I do this, let's take that, copy it, try and do this fast. That one's the ring finger. And I'm just going to go in here and quickly do a couple changes. Done. Okay, and that's my pinky. So if I grab all of these things, oh my God, I'm almost done. Thumb. There's got to be a faster way, and I just don't know it yet. Figured out lots of tricks with this renaming feature, but yeah, we'll just have to bear with it. Okay, so I got them all in place. They're all set up there. I'm just going to grab this clavicle joint, and I'll quickly go into skeleton, and oh no, it's modify prefix hierarchy names, capital L underscore, boom. This one here, sometimes I might have like another joint in the middle of this section here for like the ribs, deforming the ribs. But just to keep things easy to weight, I'm going to take this and I'm going to parent it directly to that. And then this one, I'll go up here to skeleton, I'll hit mirror joints, and it's across on the other side. And what's the last thing I want to do? Everything's opened up here. The last thing I want to do is quickly identify that these are all joints. Okay, so I'm going to take the top one and I'm going to go into modify, and prefix hierarchy names puts a prefix in the front. Okay, and so we've got everything prefixed already. But the search and replace names, if I put the money sign in here, okay, and I replace with, and I use underscore JNT to identify that these are joints, when I hit it, it puts a JNT on the end. So this is how you add in a suffix. Okay, and boom, I'm done. And actually it took me 22 minutes and change. So 20 minutes to put the skeleton in place. And I'm going to stop the video here. Also, I should save my scene.